Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio with your host, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Pena, the always opinionated Parris Lilly, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
This is Gamertag Radio, episode 944. This is Parris, and I just got back from hands-on time with the new Modern Warfare, and I want to thank Activision and Infinity Ward for having me out. They had a multiplayer reveal event for the press here in Los Angeles, so I spent the day up there getting some hands-on time, and I got an interview where we talked about some of the features that came in there. So again, I'm just going to go over my impressions really quick on here, and then we're going to play this interview so you guys can check that out. So again, the Infinity Ward devs came on stage, and the studio head talked about their internal code word for Modern Warfare. That basically the theme is dogma. They want everyone to know that gameplay is going to be king. They want this to be authentic and gritty. They want a unified experience. And what that means is whether you're playing campaign, co-op, any multiplayer experience, you're going to be able to progress your weapons and gear across all the different ways that you can play Modern Warfare. And the point of that is this: they don't want you locked into one way, like you can only play multiplayer to upgrade something, or you can only play a campaign to upgrade something. They want you to play whatever you want, and you're going to be able to upgrade all your weapons and gear along the way. So I really like that. The other big thing out of this is going to be crossplay, right? Crossplay, obviously, we've seen games like Fortnite and all that do it. So I think it is absolutely huge that Call of Duty is doing crossplay. So be it on PlayStation 4, be it on PC or Xbox, you're going to be able to play on your platform of choice and play with your friends no matter where they are. So that's going to be great. And they even mentioned internally that testing, it's been working out great. And they did address the fact that, hey, well, mouse and keyboard, people on PC have an advantage over people on console with a controller. And they're saying unless you're one of the really top 1%, they weren't really seeing an advantage with mouse and keyboard. All I will say on that is we shall see. All right. But, they talked about some of their multiplayer goals, and, they want to accommodate all play styles. They want to have some exploration and discovery of these maps. They want it to be fresh but familiar. And that basically means they don't want this to just seem like it's a remake of the original Modern Warfare. This is kind of a reimagining. So while there'll be some nostalgia nods to the original Modern Warfare that we'll see when we're playing, they do want a lot of the things to feel fresh and new, like a new experience that you're playing in Call of Duty. They kind of talked about the world design and the way that they're handling maps. So as an example, the 2v2 mode, those are called flash maps. So on those size maps, you can only do 2v2. You have your 6v6 tactical maps. On those, you can only do 6v6. And then they talked about their large player count maps, which we got to play 10v10. It was like a domination mode that we played with like 5 capture points. And they said their new technology that they've implemented, this will allow them to scale up the maps to like these giant sizes. So that's great. They talked about the level design being traversal. They talked about the gameplay mechanics, the way the breaching will work, bullet penetration, the mounting, and the new night vision. The night vision was pretty cool. I played that a couple times, and having that in there where you got to turn off your laser pointer, or your opponents could potentially see it. Do you have your night vision on? Do you turn it off on the map? It may not look like someone's there, and then all of a sudden, the laser pointer comes on and they're right in front of your face. That was cool. And they also kind of debuted a HUDless mode using night vision, which was really cool. Honestly, that was my favorite way to play, because it just made it very tactical, and it slowed the pace down. You couldn't just run and gun, in the HUDless mode. So that was a lot of fun as well. Kill streaks are back. And I know there's a little bit of controversy about that, but the devs explained the reason kill streaks are back is they want you to play like you want to stay alive. It gives you that incentive to stay alive so that, you can get the various kill streaks throughout the game. And they've even introduced like vehicles, like a kind of a co-op kill streak. Like as an example, a tank will drop into the map, and it's kind of almost like you and a partner can get in the tank and use that during the kill streak. Pretty cool. Had a lot of fun with that. Weapon systems, they talked about a little bit, the new gunsmith system, which they've talked about already. And then they also mentioned that per weapon, we potentially could see 30 to 60 attachments on the weapon. So that was cool as well. But I'll just say overall, man, I enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. This is Call of Duty. Let's be very clear on that. This is Call of Duty. This is not pretending to be Battlefield or some kind of military sim. It looks, it feels, and plays like Call of Duty. So if you're a huge fan of Call of Duty, this multiplayer is going to be right up your alley. So I'm actually going to be curious to see what people think when they actually watch the multiplayer reveal and how that works for them. And, is this just the same old, or are they seeing enough new there that it's going to make them want to go run out in October and go pick this up? I will personally say, if you're a huge fan of Call of Duty, this is going to be right up your alley. This is absolutely going to be something that you're going to want to pick up because it's Call of Duty. So if you're a fan of it, go get it. But for people that are on the fence, wait and see some of the gameplay. I'll probably have some gameplay up on my YouTube channel. You guys can check that out. I stink personally, so just be aware of that. But, be a judge if you're on the fence and make up your own mind. But Call of Duty Modern Warfare, this new Modern Warfare is out on October 25th. It'll be on PlayStation. It will be on Xbox and on PC. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play a group interview that I did with a couple of the devs over in Infinity Ward. I'm going to say, because I just have to be honest, I did not like this because I am no longer used to doing group interviews like this. We haven't done things like this since like 2008, 2009. I prefer the one-on-one experience. I had a ton of notes, ton of things that I wanted to talk about that I simply could not get to in this format. So I do apologize for that. There is some information here that you guys can glean from this, but this is definitely not my best work. So I do apologize for that, but please go ahead and give this a listen. Hope you guys enjoy this interview. Please give feedback. Let me know what you think. And hopefully I won't have to do these group type interview things ever again. All right. This is Parris. Let's go ahead and cut it over to the interview, and we will talk to you again after that.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
Jeffrey Smith, multiplayer design director. You'd like to go first?
I guess I will go ahead and go first. So thank you both gentlemen for taking some time to talk to us. So since we're talking multiplayer, you guys gave the great presentation earlier, and I took all these notes. But the one thing to kind of get into, and you can kind of just get on this too from our perspective, is the world design and the level design of these maps that we got to play today. So what kind of went into the thought process of this? Because obviously we're going back to Modern Warfare. So you guys mentioned it's not necessarily a complete reboot of everything that we're doing, but it's also honoring the past. So can you kind of talk about some of that?
In the maps and the layouts?
Yeah, yes.
Well,
I guess let me clarify here a little more. Sure. What I'm saying is, are we going to see anything familiar from like the original Modern Warfare as far as map design goes, or are we going to kind of just have like maybe some Easter eggs, like, oh yeah, I remember that in the first one?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of scattered Easter eggs kind of through the systems and stuff. We were kind of very aware of trying to not make a lot of geo from past games because we didn't want it to look like a remastered. We're fully open to putting those maps out post-launch. We just kind of felt like people would be like, they're just rehashing stuff and all this similar stuff. So we wanted to kind of keep it new, but aesthetically and I was always big into climbing all around maps, and so was my buddy Alex. From High Rise to Karachi to Favela, like being able to explore and climb these maps and get around that. So, I think a little like we were talking about with the fresh, familiar stuff, it should, I don't know if you guys got a chance to play yet, but hopefully when you start running around, it feels a little nostalgic of kind of how it used to feel.
I felt it, if you don't mind, if I just throw this last thing in and I'll be quiet. So I did feel that. I did see some nostalgia. It's a couple of the maps that we went through, but you also mentioned, trying to get away from, like, the maps are going to be asymmetrical, and you're trying to get away from just the standard 3-lane, approach to things. And I definitely felt that while I was playing, where I'm thinking, okay, I can go down this way. Oh no, someone's there and I'm gonna get shot. You know, kind of thing. So really means you think.
I think there's nothing wrong with 3 lanes. I think that the number multiplies really well. And I think when you start getting into more, it's a little too hard for people to quantize. So it's more about kind of digging into those negative spaces between those lanes to make it more interesting. And it's our job to make those lanes interesting and not read as symmetrical. And just simply that alone will help it feel more organic and more exciting to kind of make your brain kind of try to figure out these paths and stuff.
During the presentation, two of the big screens that appeared. One was authentic and gritty, and shortly before that, was gameplay is king.
Sure.
When you talk about ensuring that this feels as if like a real soldier, a tier 1 soldier in the modern era is fighting in it, but you also have kill streak items like the Juggernaut, which is very unrealistic and almost like the superhero aspect that you were trying to avoid. How do you reconcile those two?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we really did want to kind of make a authentic kind of military shooter, but we're not trying to make a milsim, and we definitely didn't want to not have the kind of arcadey, buttery layer that we've always had in these games. And I think that still kind of keeps it approachable. So there's a certain, artistic license. I mean, us pulling in, movie references in past games and stuff like that. It gives it more character.
And
so it's not so
Juggernaut. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, it's authentic and gritty, yes, for sure. But the Juggernaut is pretty dope.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those statements are a little bit more of like, what you're used to in Call of Duty of past recent, offerings. Offered very different styles of Call of Duty and a lot of different kind of militaristic, but still, fantastical things. And we wanted to kind of bring it back to the roots of kind of, this franchise started with historic World War II stuff. And so can we add that kind of authenticity back? But it's still trying to make it fun and not take it too heavy. But maybe we're trying to push that too much on people. But for us, it was push into these bounds that haven't been explored for a few years, and we'll still pull it back and make it fun and approachable.
So the one kind of gameplay experience I had that stood out the most to me was Hardcore. I don't know, did you guys rename it? Is it still Hardcore Team Deathmatch?
We have the really creative name of calling it Realism.
Okay, I thought I heard that, but I was like, that's not a Call of Duty thing. But yeah, so the Realism Team Deathmatch with night vision on felt completely unlike any Call of Duty experience I'd had, just because it's very disorienting because you have the reduced visibility of being in the night vision, and you don't get the same level of feedback as to whether you've hit somebody. So it feels like the sort of thing where you really have to lean into teamwork. Why did you guys want to push that with that, and what were some of your goals for introducing, I guess, both night vision, but specifically, like, it really amps up the realism?
Yeah, I mean, those are two different questions, and we'll do each one. Realism came out of a bug. We play the game, we probably do two play tests a day, and in one of them, the HUD broke. And because the game is so kind of photorealistic and looks so crazy, it just was this really interesting experience. You weren't getting obituaries, you weren't getting hit markers, and so it was really hard to tell that somebody went down.
That was also around the time that we were working on Effect on Target too.
Yeah.
So the impacts and blood and squibs that came off the players when that HUD broke. And
they were a little higher than we have now.
Wow, that's awesome. So it helped with that.
Yeah,
that flavor.
And then and it's like when you're trying really hard to create new experiences and new things in the games. It was something that we're like, wow, this is really something different. So we put it in there. Same with night vision. Single player has done so much effort and research into and tech-wise to get night vision, working so well. We wanted to put it into MP and see if it was actually any fun. In the older games, we actually did night vision, and we had the button there stuck forever, but we never really had the guts to do dark maps. Because it never really affected the dark edges, and so it was just kind of a pain in the butt. But now that it actually works, we decided, all right, let's put it in a map, and we actually did like half level lighting, and it was just kind of this half-assed thing. And so we're like, I turned the lights off completely. Let's see if it's fun. And started chasing each other around, and it was really pretty fun. And so a handful of the maps support have night versions, and we're really kind of just trying to see how it shakes out, see if it resonates with people, see if it's fun. We can always make more dark versions of the maps, but yeah, it's been kind of a fun little experiment to see if we can actually make that fun.
So how challenging was crossplay, especially in balancing things? So someone on an original Xbox can compete with some guy with a tricked out PC rig.
Performance-wise, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. Mostly it's the question of how is the PC,
right.
How are the consoles going to be owned by the PC guys?
Mm-hmm.
We've been playing with it for a year in the studio, and we have some pretty heated gunfight matches with everybody. And at least the PC versus console debate has been pretty even. Performance-wise, I don't know. I don't think we've actually dug into that, but we're pretty scrupulous about every little thing that goes in the game. So we'll make sure that we dig into that before we launch. So it's also something that we want to make sure that if we completely do it, it's obviously the best possible that we can ever make. And so we should definitely make sure that that's a watch out.
So, real quick question: have you seen any difference between people playing against each other with mice versus gamepads on consoles?
No, that's what we were saying. We haven't really seen it shake out. Maybe like the high, super, 1% of PC players. But it's been pretty even. It hasn't really been, we have, we have these little like gunfight, little like almost like, arcade fighting machine setups, and people can kind of pick their tool of power from console to PC, and everybody kind of grows matches. Yeah, it's been fun. Excellent.
Just to add on that, just really quick, and then I'm going to one other thing. Having cross play is going to be huge. I mean, this could be industry leading across these type of shooters. So I'm very happy to see that. But I also wanted you to kind of go into the importance of why you got rid of the season pass. But then I'm going to double up on that since I'm talking now. Not only the season pass, but also kind of get into the gameplay mechanics. You already talked about night vision a little bit, but getting to breaching, the bullet I can't even say it. The bullet penetration and mounting.
Yep. Yeah. What was the first one?
Season pass.
Why do we get rid of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pain in the ass when some of your buddies download Season Pack 1 and the other ones have Season Pack 2, and it's just really hard to keep everybody playing together. So it just makes sense. I mean, that's just the way of the world. Yeah, it's just the way of the world. And so, it's just been, it's something that we've always been wanting for a long time, and it's just kind of working through the system. But mechanics.
Yeah, like just start with like breaching, because you guys kind of went into that. I found that interesting as you were talking about it.
It was kind of a funny little experiment. We just had some usable doors, and I actually put them into one of the maps, and we did a play test. Actually, it was right around we were doing the nighttime stuff, and we just kind of threw them in as a hoot, and then it was cool because immediately you were able to pause a firefight. And somebody's shooting at you, you run in, you close the door. You're like, all right, what's up? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Are you gonna come in on me? Because I'm aiming at the door, and the guy's gonna aim at the door. And so now, because we have these climbable stuff, the person never would come through the door. And then you start finding these other things, and it's kind of like our little phrase there of saying like depth and replayability to every fight. Like, it was really the endeavor to do that. Like, I think a lot of times we kind of look at like, what's the big innovation and all that, what's the macro? But if you can boil it down to that micro of the one-on-one interaction and how many different things can we add in to change that kind of wave pattern of what's possible to happen, then it just kind of continues to grow from there, and you just find new interactions and gameplay.
And then the other one I wanted to definitely get in on was bullet penetration, because you got me on that one in 2v2. So you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's been in the system for a long time. Yeah. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say we had that back in the first Modern Warfare, but I think maybe wasn't used or utilized over the years. But
yeah, I mean, I think that when they were doing kind of more sci-fi games, the architecture changes a lot. You know, you get kind of into brutalist stuff, and the walls are super thick, or metallic things, and so it's a little harder to kind of read that penetration thing. But it was definitely something that where I,
you need that.
it just makes it so much more lively when somebody lights up the side of the building with a 50 cal. So.
And definitely adds to the feeling and the power of each weapon class. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that with these things, like, what makes one game better than another game? Can you tell me? Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? It's just those micro little millimeter changes that changes one game from good to great, or changes the things. It's those attention to detail. It's kind of a cliche saying, but we're super critical of stuff, so we're always like, oh, we got to make sure that this is working and that's working, and then all these kind of things work in this big ecosystem to make it better.
I wanted to ask about the kill streaks for Modern Warfare. They're coming back and they're called kill streaks, but you've added co-op kill streaks for the first time with the tank, for example. Yep. I was experimenting with can't recall the actual name for it, but it was a little drone with the auto cannon on top driving through it, which is very hard to control, I might add. What was the thought process behind adding the co-op kill streaks and the other kill streaks to the game? Like, what made you choose them specifically?
Well, I think the co-op stuff is just, like we, having a top gunner on a tank is just fun. And, that poor guy doesn't last long with snipers in the world, but, at least you get up there and give it a go. As far as the other ones, it's a little like we were talking about in the presentation of the fresh but familiar stuff. Like, it's a real thing for us. It's like we couldn't just take a bunch of kill streaks from back in the day and put them in the game, and at a certain point, you're just kind of making a mod of a previous game. But you couldn't just all make new stuff. Then nobody's going to feel like it feels like that, that old, that old feel from those old games. So we kind of handpicked certain things. We actually, there's a couple different things that we did on kill streaks. We made sure that we also added a few line of sight call-ins. Some previous games, you just kind of get the tablet of and you can kind of touch any play space in the map. That's a lot of power. I can't see you on the other side of the map, but I see your little red dots and I know you're spawning there, so I'm going to get you. We have binoculars where you have to actually get a sight line on the location you want to call it into. So you actually have to do a little work, get to a second story window, and then call it in right on the location that you want, and then the A10 will come in. And there's another laser pointer that you have to get on the side.
I use the laser pointer in game.
So that's a little bit of a balancing act of, like, I just can't touch anybody in the map with this. I need to actually get to an advantageous position and then use it. It's just, again, that ecosystem of trying to get those things in. And, you kind of look at, what kind of characters do we have? And if kill streaks are a character, what kind of gameplay does this present with this? Or what is that? And do we have kind of neat, interesting kind of state change things? A long, dumb answer, I guess. But
So, correct me if I'm wrong factually, but I think this is the first time in standard multiplayer that you've locked certain maps to different modes because you have the various sizes going on. What was kind of the impetus towards doing that? Because my experience with Call of Duty has always been every map you can pretty much play.
Yeah,
anything
there was
on.
war in World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been a few things, but we've always built maps to support all the modes because you kind of want to use all the parts of the chicken because they're so expensive to make. Even the 2v2 stuff, we have tons of customizable options that you can turn on and off. You can start with no gun, and there's pre-placed weapons like some old school pickups. You can play 1v1, you can play 3v3, you can play some of the core modes in those maps. And you could play the same game modes that you play in the medium tactical maps that you can play in the larger maps. So we just kind of, we're not necessarily specifically picking one mode or another. You can play, like today with Anya, that's 20 on 20, that's 5 flag Dom. It's still Dom, it's just 2 more flags. You can play TDM. So we're not really specifying except for gunfight, where we want to keep that that 2v2 interaction and kind of that speed of those rounds. That's really the only one for us that we're kind of custom building.
So I guess kind of to clarify then, what was the impetus behind kind of branching the maps off into sizes?
It's giving people different playgrounds to play in. I think that if we just made a whole game 2v2 maps, it doesn't quite push the buttons on everybody. It's fun, but it was only because they're so small that we can kind of get away with making a bunch of those. The medium maps, you've seen that. You've seen that in a lot of games. It's a bread and butter, and it feels really good. But we also want to, as creative, kind of push ourselves into new spaces. And the engine allows us to make very large maps in this. And, we just want to kind of give the player agency and run around that you kind of get in some other games. So it's been fun.
I love the unified experience idea, but I'm curious about kind of a technical design challenge that you have where you've got player levels and weapon levels. How do you matchmake a multiplayer knowing someone's actually a high-level multiplayer versus a noob trying it for the first time? Sure. And conversely, how do you balance a single-player campaign that can handle someone that's coming in right off the bat at a very high level?
Well, the first question in the balance, what makes somebody a high level MP player? Is it skill or how much he's unlocked?
It's about the person's skill experience. I mean, there's definitely, you can go up a person with better weapons than you are, and they'll have an advantage. That's
the trick of it. In designing games, you never want to put your most powerful weapon at a really late unlock, because when someone buys a game 6 months out, they're at a disadvantage, right? Because you've been a bad designer and you've locked away some golden gun at 200 hours. So actually, we have default loadouts that have the best stuff in the entire game. So you jump in, we got you. We got all the cool stuff. You want to play longer and start kind of creating your own magical weapon, then dig into there. So it's something that we're very, very aware of, not having that kind of disturbance in the force.
I'm afraid we might have to wrap up there, gents. Very sorry.
Thanks for checking the game out.
Yeah, it was fun.
You get to go play some more fun.
You're listening to Gamertag Radio.
All right, that was the interview. I didn't like it, but I hope you guys did. I hope that's fair to say. But like I said, it is what it is at this point. I hope you guys got some information out of that you can enjoy. But yeah, this was my experience with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you again, Activision, for inviting me out to this event. Again, Activision PR is always top notch. I really appreciate all the work that they do. Always a great experience going to these type of events. Had a lot of fun playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and hopefully we'll get more information on the campaign soon. But for now, this has been episode 944 of Gamertag Radio. I'm Parris. My printer just went off. You probably heard that in the background, but we will see you soon.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.